the best thing you can do as a business in marketing is reach your ideal client or customer.
The difference truly between an introvert and an extrovert gets energized by those things.
If there are 1,000 people getting married doesn't mean that there are 1,000 of like my person.
Right.
I think of it as nurturing. You're
Sure.
nurturing relationships with the people who already know you.
When I first bought the agency, and my husband would get so mad. I'm using AI a little bit, but I feel like I have to be real careful.
Hi, welcome to the podcast. My name is Sarah. I am a creative entrepreneur, a photographer, videographer in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And this is the UnNicheable podcast where we talk about Chattanooga business with Chattanooga business owners. And I have a Chattanooga business owner here with me today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. I'm Kristy Higgins. I own the Mara Higgins Agency. We're an Allstate Agency, and I have been doing that since 22. I bought the book of business from my father, who actually had been doing it for about 15 years. He was getting ready to retire, thinking about getting ready to retire, and I had been at Unum for 27 years and was ready to do something different. I didn't necessarily have like a clear path to what the next thing would be. And so, Dad and I just started talking, and that's kind of how it evolved. It evolved from there. Like I said, I bought that book. It's funny, the name, the Mara Higgins Agency. So he was Ken Mara. He is Ken Mara. He's still with us, just not in the business anymore. And so I was really trying to, leave his name in it, put my name in it, and indicate to those current customers as well as people we would bring on that it's a family business, still going to have, that family feel. That's really what, I would say kind of our, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but we definitely want to treat people. Service is the main thing. We're not a big high pressure sales agency. We're not a huge agency. That's not how I ever wanted to do. It's not how he did things. It's not how I wanted to do things. So we're very big on service and treating people like family. So I wanted to leave that Mara name in there to let people know, that it was still a family thing, but nobody gets it. Who's Mara? Who's Mary? Maria? I get
because it kind of sounds like a first name.
Yes, I get everything in the world. And people call and say, I'm looking for Mara. I'm like, that's me. I'm Kristy.
That's not a person.
No, it's not a person. It's my maiden name.
Well, I relate to that because people say when they meet me and know me, they're like, you have so many names. I'm like, yeah, because Sarah LeRae is my business name. That's how a lot of people know me, but LeRae is my middle name.
Oh, okay.
And then a lot of people knew me as Creek, which is my maiden name, and then Gillum is my married name. And then there was a brief time where I was a Brown, but we won't talk about that. So I relate to that sort of name confusion.
Yeah, it's backfired a little bit, but I just keep trying to lean into it.
Hey, just go with it. Yeah. You'll be known for that. If
I have
nothing
too
else.
much stuff,
Yeah.
All the swag has been purchased, so I'm just going to have to keep going with it.
We're invested. So tell me a little bit about the types of clients. And, I don't know much about the insurance business, so maybe give me a little intro 101 to kind of what kinds of people you serve and what kind of things you do.
Yeah. So everybody needs insurance, right?
Right.
Auto insurance, it's a requirement. It's a legal thing. You have to have it. But, like I said, I'm really trying to provide a really consultative approach with folks. I want people to understand what they're getting and feel confident in the service that they're going to receive, from me and my agency. So we're really looking for people who are not necessarily looking for just the bottom line, price, even though sometimes I'm able to give that, but not all the time. But I really like to work with a clientele who's willing to maybe pay a little bit more because they know, that the service that they're going to get, we're going to answer the phone, when you call. If we don't, for some reason, answer the phone, we're going to call you back. Unfortunately, that's not what I hear from a lot of consumers.
True.
That they're getting that kind of service. So somebody who's, willing to kind of pay maybe a little bit more to be confident in the service that they're going to receive. That's my best customer.
Yeah.
Whether you're, just buying a house or, you've been in your same house for 15 years and unfortunately, recently prices have, continued to go up and up and up with the economy for one thing, and also just all of the catastrophe type weather
Sure.
occurrences that we've had around here, prices have really gone up over the last, since I bought the agency. Actually, I know in my first 6 months, I thought, this is the absolute worst thing I could have ever possibly done. Everybody is mad when they call. When is this going to end? And the truth is it's not going to end. It hasn't ended. You just learn how to deal with it. But, so even somebody who's been in their home maybe for a long time and is just looking for a review and check around and see if they're still getting a good price or if they need to maybe switch to a new carrier and get something better.
That's interesting. So your dad was in the business for a long time.
Yeah, he was, but I, like I said, I was not an insurance baby. I didn't grow up in the agency or anything like that. He had been doing it for about 15 years, so I'm old enough that I was grown. I was getting my insurance from him when he started doing it. Like I said, I just was at a point where I was ready to do something new. This was really a great fit for me because over 27 years at Unum, I had done a lot of different things. But the thing I'm always the best at is relationship management.
Mm-hmm.
And even, sometimes that entails problem solving and other times it's just, a hand to hold through a tough situation. But I'm good at that piece of the business, So I really spent the first year. He stayed on with me after I bought the book, which was just the hugest blessing in the world because he taught me, how to push all the buttons, how everything worked, who to call when I had this or that problem or what have you. And so, I spent the first year kind of doing that. He ended up staying on with me for over a year. We agreed it would be at least a year and longer if I needed it. And it turns out I did need it. I had a little bit of trouble just getting my staffing, down and right and getting the right people on board. But once I was able to do that, and he was really ready to let go of the reins at that point and move into the retirement stage of his life, which I'm happy for him.
Absolutely.
So now I'm just trying to grow my business.
Yeah.
I have my staffing in place. They're great. I have 2 girls who work for me. They're both, kind of follow that mantra that I have of service is the most important thing, not necessarily just the sale. So, I can leave them there and feel confident that everything's getting taken care of. And if anything is terrible and they need my help, they'll call me.
Right.
But I can go out and do more of, trying to network with people and grow my business that way rather than buying leads, which is something that happens in the insurance industry. And you may be familiar with it, from a little bit of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that approach is just not really well suited to me and my personality and the way I like to run my business. That's a good way to grow your business if you have a machine. We follow this process and we just churn out phone calls and churn out high pressure sales, and like I said, that's not what we do. So I prefer to get those leads organically, and that's why I do things like this and, and just try to network and bring those leads in because that people have heard of me or a friend referred them or
it's a real relationship.
Yes, exactly.
I think almost any industry there's some kind of lead purchasing pipeline. There's always people who are really good at sales marketing, and I think a lot of times like Facebook ads or like other sort of reference things. And so I think every business owner can relate to like the temptation of that, of sort of lead purchasing. And I love your perspective on it and how you didn't want to go that direction. I have felt similarly. Mm-hmm. I don't think the lay public really understands the industry of lead purchasing.
For sure.
It's not just insurance. There's so many industries.
Just about everybody.
And it really is about the buying and selling of your private information. And so it's an underbelly. It's something that, surface level and people don't talk about a lot, but almost every industry there is a way to purchase. And I have, I have feelings about like the buying and selling of people's personal information that they didn't necessarily consent to really, They
didn't know what they were consenting to.
But I also from a business perspective understand the idea of the best thing you can do as a business in marketing is reach your ideal client or customer.
Right.
And sometimes, depending on what industry you're in, can look very, very can be very, very specific. So like, for example, in the wedding industry, which is most of my background,
right.
It's pretty specific, like who your ideal person is that you're marketing to.
They're getting married.
They're getting married. And that usually looks like, people between 25 and 40 these days. Usually the women are the ones that are, so it's usually brides. And depending on what style of photography you have, you may be able to sort of isolate that even further. But, there are places that will collect like bride's information. Like they put their email and all that information in there. And so it does look very tempting when you're like, oh, well, here are 1,000 emails of your specific target audience to want to purchase that. But like you said, there are certain industries that's the best way to go. But I think a lot of industries, yours, mine included, like that relationship piece is a lot more important.
Yes. And
like, I don't think, even though I know that those 1,000 emails are people that are looking for a photographer or a videographer or whatever, I also am like, my clients, I need to have a relationship with them to be able to serve them well. So it's like, just because there are 1,000 people getting married doesn't mean that there are 1,000 of like my person.
Right,
and I would rather them find me in a more organic way so it feels more genuine and authentic.
Absolutely.
I just have lots of feelings about like networking too sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I thought I hated networking. And really, to this day, push me into a room full of people and say, just work the room and meet some people and
right.
Just here's my hand. Just smash it with a hammer. I would rather you do that than make me go in and just work a room. I've been able to start doing a little bit of networking in different ways that I've found out. I mean, like on a one-on-one basis like this, sure, I can do that all day. I just despise just working a room and just handing out my business cards. So I like things better that are like, event type of things that are, at a, for a specific reason where you have something maybe in common with people in the room. So I've been able to work my way into it a little bit.
Yes. I've talked about this before on the podcast. Like, I consider one of my core values to be authenticity and transparency. And so sometimes it feels like when I go into a room like that, I'm not like genuinely like wanting to get to know these people.
No, genuinely, I'm just waiting to get to the end of it.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Please get me through this.
It just feels a little inauthentic. I'm trying to shift my mindset about that a little bit because how are you going to get to know if you have anything in common with these people if you don't like at least kind of put yourself out there? So I'm like trying to work through that because there may be some like really genuine friendships and relationships that I find. And like you said, there's probably 80% of people in the room are having the same thought that you are. Like, I honestly don't even really want to be here, but I feel like I need to be for my business and I'm trying to move the needle and all that.
And I'm sure you've heard people talk about, the difference truly between an introvert and an extrovert. And an extrovert gets energized by those things. And that's really how I know I am an introvert at heart because it completely drains me. It's so much work for me to do that. That it's too hard. I mean, they're like, there's got to be an easier way.
I am often, I think, mistaken as an extrovert.
Same.
I'm a little bit of I think it's called an introverted extrovert. I don't know. My mom is the same way. Like if you were to meet my mom or me, like at a party or out somewhere, like we seem to be sort of life of the party people, extroverted. And to be a photographer, you kind of have to be a little bit extroverted to do a job well. But I think I also need like recharge time.
Yes.
Like I do find stuff like that, especially, honestly, this feels like therapy right now because I'm having a little epiphany as we're talking. Especially interactions that don't feel authentic are especially draining versus interactions that feel authentic to me. They are actually very energizing for me.
I would say the same. Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess it's a little more complicated for me, but I understand completely what you're saying. Yeah. Like, and a lot of people and like a lot of businesses are sort of, attract more types of personalities. Like photographers are going to attract more extroverted type personalities. There are certain businesses that are going to attract more introverted personalities. I don't know.
Well, in insurance, we get them all.
Yeah. We
really do. But that's part of the fun of it, really, kind of forming relationships with all of those people. I just find, if you care enough to ask the questions up front and learn something about people and learn, what they need, then I know how we can help, cover those gaps for you, insure your risks, in my world, that's what it's all about. And then, but I've also just have some customers who've become great friends.
Right.
Because they're just nice people and we click.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you get lucky like that.
Yeah.
And some of my best friends have sort of been found by accident like
I
that.
bet, yeah, in your world.
Yeah, it's super fun. And it's always just a fun thing to feel like, oh, well, you came into my life because you were originally a client of mine, but now we have this really cool relationship. And talking about networking as well, I feel like it is an underutilized resource in this day and age because everybody wants everything to sort of stay online, but there is some sort of magic in person.
I mean, relationships are very important, so even from the standpoint of I'm a member of a networking group, and that is all about, forming relationships with those people so that they know how to refer me, and who is a good prospect for me, and I know the same for them. But also just, with my clients and with even potential prospective clients, the relationship is kind of everything. So I tell people all the time, especially like if I have friends come to me for an insurance quote, I always say, listen, at the end of the day, you and I are still going to be friends. We have an existing relationship. If my price works for you and you feel confident about the service that you're going to get and you want to come to me, that's just icing on the cake, right? That'll be great. But please don't feel like because we're having this conversation that you're kind of roped in and you're going to have to make the switch and come with me. If it doesn't make sense for you financially, then it just doesn't. And that's okay. Our relationship is still the most important thing to me. It'll deepen and change a little bit if you also become a customer. But if you don't, I'm not going to get my feelings hurt about that. I'm not for everybody. My price isn't for everybody.
Right.
It just doesn't always make sense. And when I first bought the agency, and my husband would get so mad. I shouldn't tell this probably in public. But so-and-so should have come, I don't know why they haven't come to us for a quote. And I'm like, because, honey, they probably already have an agent, somebody who they've worked with for years and they trust. And why disrupt that relationship, if you don't have to? It is personal and it isn't. It's a complicated thing, but it's because it's about the relationship.
Yeah. And I agree. Because like if you had a client and their sister started an agency, like that would suck for you if they were just picked up all of their business and went somewhere else.
Had a guy recently, actually. So about a year ago, he called me and he said, and he had been with my dad. Probably he had been with the agent before my dad even. I can't remember that. But he said, I kind of hate to do this. You guys have been so great to me, but my son is going into insurance and I'm going to move my insurance to him. And I was like, well, that is completely understandable. I applaud you for going and supporting your son in his new endeavor. He's back with me now. His son ended up taking his career in a different kind of direction. He's doing commercial insurance instead of personal lines. And, so he's back with us now.
And if you had acted sort of like upset about that, he might not have come back. So like that really kind of circled back around for you.
And I tell people that all the time when they call to cancel. Hey, I get it. The price has gone up and it's become unpalatable for you, and that's fine. Take this time and go to somebody else, and if you find in 2 or 3 years that that's not working for you anymore, then please how to get in touch with me and come back and see if it'll work here again, because I'd love to have you back.
Yeah. I feel like your business specifically is in a little bit of a unique situation in that you probably have the opportunity to be sort of a matchmaker of people in need of things, because like so many different kinds of people.
Oh, yeah.
Because like you said, everybody needs insurance.
Contractors and plumbers and electricians and handymen and And I do have customers all the time. We've had this, and I'm not really sure that it's going to be a claim, but we still need some service. Do you know anybody, who can do this kind of thing? And so that's another thing another place where networking has been really good for me, because I've been able to get those relationships and those contacts. And it's funny, my dad used to shy away from that. And he would say, I get what he was saying. He would say, if you make a recommendation for somebody and it goes badly, then it's your fault. And you just need to stay out of that and just let them find services on their own. But I feel like, if I have a relationship with a service provider who I know and I trust, then I can make that recommendation for somebody and help them fill a gap, find somebody to repair their roof or put in an outlet or, whatever the case may
and
be.
I also feel like things have circled back around a little bit, because I feel like there was a season where, the internet was a thing, or the phone book even before that. And so you could find your own service providers pretty easily. And that's still true. But I feel like with sort of the noise that is on the internet now,
it's hard to know.
It's hard to know. And I feel like people are going back by the way of word of mouth and actual referrals, because of all of the noise when it comes to any kind of service that you want to hire for.
Yeah. Are they even real?
Yeah.
Is it AI or is it a real person who's going to show up and do some work for me? Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's crazy these days.
Absolutely. And so I think that makes those, relationships even more important and relevant today, even though more and more and more is online. And I've talked about this before, but I really think that we're going to see in the future a push towards more in-person things, events.
Oh, I hope you're right.
And all that kind of stuff. I think we're going to see a push towards more sort of raw, real, authentic things online, less polished, less all of that, because AI and some of this technology can do things super polished.
Sure.
Technology is more accessible than ever. So I think as humans, we may, I hope, start to value more humanity and more sort of imperfect. I see that in the photography world. There's a push towards film, away from digital. Clients are starting to want more film photography, especially at the luxury, high end, which you wouldn't imagine necessarily. But I think that's because perfect is easier now.
Yeah.
And so imperfectness feels more real and authentic, and just speaks to our humanity on a different level than things trying to be perfect all the time.
Sure. It's so interesting that you say that too. And when we were talking earlier about the kind of content, generation and management stuff that you're doing, and that's, really what I'm doing with a lot of my digital presence, is trying to get it out there on Facebook and Instagram and, all that in a way that attracts people. I'm just trying to make my phone ring.
Right.
And I'm using AI a little bit, but I feel like I have to be real careful, because if all of my content is AI generated, people are going to know that. And I think it's a real turnoff, especially for some younger folks who recognize it like that.
Yes.
For one thing, they absolutely know that, that's an AI generated photo. I'm too old. I don't know how they know that, but I know they do, so really trying to inject more of myself into everything that we're doing as well.
Because that's what makes your business unique.
Exactly.
Is you. Yeah. That's really the only thing.
It's
ultimately that really makes your small business unique, is the person who runs it, for sure. So I saw a TikTok or Instagram reel recently of a girl that was basically making fun of, I guess, caption generation for social media.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was a video of her coming across a long hyphen, and that gave away that it was ChatGPT. And I had not put that together.
I wouldn't have known that.
That long hyphen was something that ChatGPT does a lot. And so if you see a caption or any kind of copy on a website anywhere, and it's using these long hyphens, it's probably ChatGPT written.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, and those are the kinds of things that you said, young people can catch faster. And I was like, oh, here I am going through making sure all the long hyphens are
take it out of my captions.
So that's one sort of benefit to sort of staying plugged in and being chronically online like I am, which I honestly have feelings about. I don't want to be online as much as I am, but I do feel like I catch on to things quicker than like some people. So I can kind of stay ahead a little bit better. Yeah. So I don't know, just interesting how things, and there'll probably in 6 months, something else.
Something different. Yeah.
But I wondered, I haven't tried this yet, but I wondered if I could tell ChatGPT, don't use a hyphen.
Oh, I don't know. That would be interesting to try.
Instead of me
I hate
manually.
My conversations with AI. I really do.
I have a love-hate relationship with it. Yeah. It's been actually great for my family recently. My mom recently, walking her dogs, talking on the phone, fell and broke her arm. And so she had a really bad fracture in her proximal humerus up here. And so she's healing, and so she can't use this arm very much. And so that makes working like difficult.
Sure.
And so, and typing, like even like, because just the flexibility, like she can type, but it's uncomfortable for long periods of time. So I've sort of introduced her to ChatGPT and like that voice function for her as like an accessibility thing. So she's able to still work and like do emails and all that stuff because of that. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a real game changer for her.
You know, if you let your mind go as far as AI can go, it's so scary to me. It really is. Mm-hmm. But it's also, you know, pretty helpful in a lot of specific
there
situations.
Are a lot of positives
like
to it.
Moms, yeah.
But yeah, it is definitely something that can go scary for sure.
It can get there quickly.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Any like fun stories or like unique situations or anything we could share?
They're not usually fun.
Insurance isn't necessarily
a lot of times it is not fun, you know, but I will say, like, I had 2 years ago, I guess, I had a family whose house was struck by lightning, middle of the night. They were not there, thank goodness, because the home caught fire. And these people, though, this was the second time that their home had been almost completely destroyed. It was destroyed in the Easter tornadoes back, you know, a few years ago. They had a total loss at that point. They completely rebuilt their home, and it got struck by lightning and caught on fire. And I was like, how much more can one family deal with?
Some people can't catch a break.
And they just couldn't. They were, I wouldn't say older couple, but a little bit, you know, older than me. Retired, you know, definitely into their older years. And it's just it's terrible, you know, when something like that happens, of course. And honestly, like the claims process just doesn't make it a whole lot easier. There are a lot of different people you have to deal with, and it's a challenge. So they ended up staying in an extended stay hotel that was very near my office. And so they would just come by every other day or so and just check on things. And you know, people would be like, "Oh, Kristy, they're here again." My staff would, but we got very close actually through the whole process. They wrote me a great review at the end of it because I think I just, you know, having the humanity to recognize just how kind of discombobulating the whole thing was.
Right.
You know, that they're out of their home and they're out of their routine and they don't know what's going on with their house, and the claim process is confusing. So, you know, I just really I'd take 15 minutes or so, you know, about every other day. They would drop by the office on their way home from church or, you know, whatever it was. So it was an interesting story for sure. Through an extended period of time, it was probably 6 months before their home. They ended up not losing their house again over that one. Thank goodness they were able to get it repaired and get back in. But it was a while before they got back in.
And I feel like that's so full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning, is when you are getting your clients and your leads through personal connections and creating relationships. When you're going through a tough season, something that has happened that requires you to utilize your insurance policy, to have somebody that you can call that was like a human that you had
you know their face, they know yours.
Yes, that's got to be super comforting.
Yeah, I think it is. And, you know, I mean, I definitely have customers outside of Chattanooga as well. And I don't say I don't want those customers. Wow. I do. I'd love to. And you can do so much, you know, digitally and over the phone.
Oh, sure.
You don't really ever have to be able to come into my office, but it is nice when you're in that situation where, you know, everything is kind of thrown off kilter to be able to sit down and look at somebody in the face. And
Yeah.
talk to them.
Well, and I think that also speaks to, like you were saying, sometimes whatever business you're in may not be a business that lends itself to a lot of in-person meeting. It doesn't mean that you can't have a relationship. And while I think social media gets like a bad rap, and it can be sort of like, people think of it as toxic a lot of times, and especially business owners, we have this like love-hate relationship with it. I think it's just such a unique way to build relationships with people that you don't get to see all the time, to sort of show your face and show who you are, and be authentic online, and then your clients feel more comfortable. It's a way, I think of it as nurturing. You're nurturing relationships with the people who already know you. I try not to think of social media as a lead generation tool. I think that's how most people think of it. They think of it as like trying to get your business in front of as many eyeballs as possible. But for me, the way I think about it is, they may find me that way, but anyone who's viewing this, I want them to feel nurtured. I want them to, it's not just about how many views I can get, how many new eyeballs that can see me. It's about nurturing the eyeballs that are already here and serving them.
What that does, though, is make them more comfortable with you, and then they're going to feel that much more comfortable saying to their friend who's getting married or buying a new house, I know somebody who can help you with that. Go to my girl; she's great.
And it helps you stay front of mind, and also. I guess I was saying social media, but really the power of video content and things like this, like with a podcast style content, or just, popping on your stories on social media and like kind of connecting with people that way. But I really think that video content, like we were saying earlier, is a lot harder to AI. I mean, it's getting there. But with your face, being sort of the face of your business, I feel like that is a way to create really meaningful connection, even if it's not in person. Like, I really believe in the power of using video in your content strategy, and that it really connects with people in a way that no other media does.
And that's, I think I told you, like, I'm doing a podcast these days, which is so funny to hear those words come out of my mouth.
She's a podcaster.
But I do it with another agent friend of mine, and we're having fun with it. We're just we're trying to put out content that's helpful to people. One time we did a series that was sort of geared at lenders. How do you work with your agent the best, or work with an agent the best? We just did one recently, kind of homeowners insurance 101. So for first time home buyers. So it's really, it's fun, and we're getting content. We're struggling a little bit with how do we put ourselves into that. We can talk about insurance, all day, but how do we really make it personal and get into it? But it's, it's just a way to hopefully get our names out there as people who are trusted and knowledgeable.
And I think the thing too is, when you are an expert in your field and in something that is very technical, like
it can
insurance.
Be pretty dry. Insurance can be pretty dry.
How do you speak to people in a way that educates them without getting too jargony?
Right.
And really,
I don't want to put them to sleep.
Right. Right. But also get them the information that they need that you can provide. So having that balance is I find that, because I'm like, I could talk about cameras and gear and lighting until I put everyone to sleep. But, my people who want to hire me, they don't necessarily want to know all of that.
No. They just want to know where the picture is going to look.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's just kind of learning to put enough information out there that shows that you are an expert in your field and that you're educated and professional, but also that, is frankly entertaining, because that's why people are online, is to be entertained for the most part. Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you.
This has been super fun. Just chatting, learning about all the things. Insurance. Love it.
I'm glad I saw your post on Facebook that day.
Networking. Look at us making it happen in person and in real life. Well, you want to tell the people a little bit of how they can find you, all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm Kristy Higgins My agency is the Mara Higgins Agency. I think you're going to drop the links.
Yep.
So you can get an appointment on my website or just check us out. I also have my podcast, as I mentioned. We're called The Insurance Lounge. So I'll give you the link to that as well to post. And you can just pick up the phone and call us at 423-892-0653, the old-fashioned way.
Yo, the old-fashioned way. I love that. Give them a ring.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for watching today, guys. As usual, you can find us here on YouTube and all the places you get your podcast. And thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video. Bye.